And now, Be Insured with Luke Mardigian, presented by Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigian, and you are listening to Be Insured, a show where we discuss a variety of topics related to insurance, business, and leadership so you can stay protected while growing a thriving business. I'm going to be honest here. Do you want to know what breaks my heart?
What?
When I have to clean up the mess of an online insurance company. And I'm not even trying to be a grouch here. I'm not trying to bash them. It just happens all the time.
You mean those cute little lizards and chicks with price guns?
That's right. All the time a client comes to us who purchased their insurance online, and we uncover all kinds of mishaps, like they were paying for a particular coverage and they don't need it, or they were severely underinsured and they didn't know it.
That seems to be the majority of the time.
Yes.
Yep, I get it. The flashy low prices, convenience of shopping your insurance online can be attractive, but in today's show, I want to chat with you about what those cute little lizards and chicks with price guns are not telling you. And I've brought some great experts to discuss that with us today, and they are
Greg Hogsett, Mardigian Agency, Farm Bureau Insurance.
Eric Gestring, the Mardigian Agency, Farm Bureau Insurance.
Carlos Vera, the Mardigian Agency, Farm Bureau Insurance.
All right. So, there are some times to buy your insurance online. I get it. If you go to buy a car and forget to call your agent, you probably should buy your insurance online. If you view insurance as optional, you probably should buy your insurance online.
If you prefer price over coverage,
you probably should
buy your insurance online.
And, of course, my favorite of all time is, if you think insurance coverage is better than a licensed insurance agent,
you should probably buy your insurance online.
That's right. So Eric, how often do you see a client that was previously insured by an online provider, and what's the most common thing you hear from them about their experience?
Actually, we see it a lot, unfortunately. So the biggest problem we see is those companies are purely transactional, so they let you pick your coverage. If you're not a licensed agent...
Oh, hold on, back up. So you use the word transactional.
Yes, transactional. So transactional means they're just processing through as many pieces of new business as possible, and they literally could care less about your coverage. They just want to get you in and out and get you on your way and collect that money.
And what's the alternative to that?
Relationships, like we do.
I like that.
Yeah, you're part of the fam when you're with the Mardigian Agency. We want to make sure that you're covered properly and protected, and your family and assets are protected. That's what we're all about. So we do a strategic insurance review and make sure that we don't miss anything and make sure you're properly covered top to bottom, front to back, and still typically have the lowest price. And that isn't even what we're about. It's just the way it works out.
So, Carlos, what kind of things do you hear from clients, when you're sitting down, you're doing an insurance review, and they are currently with an online provider?
It's funny that you say that. I've ran into a lot of clients that I'll sit down with them. They've been with the online company. They have 2040 liability.
Which is the state minimums. That's the bare minimum. The legislature said, look, we get it. Not everybody's going to have high limits. Here's the minimum you should have.
And let me guess, they're living in a $300,000 house.
Yeah, they're like, why do I need more than that? I mean, the average auto claim, usually in an automobile accident or anything like that, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of dollars, not just 2040. So that's great that you've been saving all this money all this time, having state minimum, but the company's just going to write you a check for $20,000 and say, good luck with that.
Well, that's what comes down to what matters more, the price you pay today or the price you pay tomorrow. And everybody always goes, what do you mean by that? Well, the price you pay today is that 15% in 15 minutes, but the price you pay tomorrow is when you get into that accident and it costs you $1 million, and now you have to have your wages garnished for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that. At the end of the day, after that client becomes part of the Mardigian Agency and they have a claim, I never heard a client say, I am so happy that I was with an online company, I saved all that money. No, because now they're covered. So they have a peace of mind. Are you buying a piece of paper or a peace of mind?
Yeah, no, that's a great line. I like that a lot. Can we trademark that? Throw that on a T-shirt.
That's good.
What I hear all the time is, my online company's been great to me. I got in a car accident 3 years ago and they fixed the car. What's the problem?
They used parts that didn't line up. That's why everything looks off. And then not using OEM parts. That's a huge thing that's known for online companies. We like to make sure, obviously, Farm Bureau makes sure that we use quality, actual matching parts to fit and correct your vehicle if it does need fixed or repaired.
Yeah, but even beyond physical damage, I think any company's going to try to fix your car if you're in an accident. But
Absolutely. I'm
not worried about fixing my stuff, man. I'm worried about
it's the liability.
Yeah, what if
aspect.
my kids are hurt in the car accident?
But everybody is so consumed with the fact that their deductibles and the physical damage. Nobody thinks about liability. Yep. And the fact that you brought up the garnishing of wages, they can garnish up to a quarter of your wages for the rest of your life until they get back the money they want. They can take your home. They can take your cars, any asset that you have.
Yep. So save 15% today, spend 25% of your paychecks for the rest of your life.
Lose your home.
Yay.
So what are some things those cute lizards and chicks with price guns aren't telling our listeners out there?
Typically, you're going to see a price up front and get quoted. And then when you go to bind that policy online, it usually doubles, which they're always like, oh, crap. I already burnt that bridge with Eric because I said I was going to get Progressive.
Yeah, and they just got a quote, and they don't know that it's going to be...
Now they're running their report.
Right, and now it shows the two
ticket.
accidents that we were charging them for and the ticket and their youthful driver that was in the house that they didn't tell us about.
Yeah, then they tried to hide.
Yep, and then 6 months later they come back, hey, could you quote my stuff again? Because they don't want to tell you that it actually was double what our price was, but they're embarrassed.
Yes.
Yep.
So save yourself that hassle and get with the Mardigian Agency.
Yeah, we'll go with any company that's going to have high ethical standards.
Yeah.
Trustworthy people who are going to tell you the truth, whether it's a good price or not. I mean, every month there's somebody who I sit down and go, hey, you know what? Your coverages, they're actually pretty good, and our price is pretty much the same. So it's really ultimately who you want to have as your agent.
Yeah, I've
you
definitely
make a
had
decision.
that conversation too.
You know, so sometimes we're exactly this. We can't control the price as agents, but we can't control the experience that the client has. So one of the things that to kind of pivot on that is when you sign up, you don't get direct access to an agent. So you jump online, you save 15% in 15 minutes, you hit submit, you print off all your certificates of insurance, and if you need something, you have to
call 1-800 number.
That's right.
Yep.
And then it, talks to you like a robot. Please tell us what you would be interested in talking to our representatives about. And then you say it, and then it goes, we didn't understand that request. And then goes through the whole menu again. I just had that with my mortgage provider.
That sounds fun.
My mortgage got bought out by the company that I actually my first mortgage was through, and that's why I didn't go through them the next time. But then it got bought out, and I stood on hold for 10 minutes. All I needed was my last 2 month statements. They weren't on their online portal, and I had to be on hold for 10 minutes to have them email me 2 statements. That's the type of stuff that happens with these online companies where you don't have that relationship where you can send a text message or a quick email.
Yeah, we don't want you guys to go through that. Every one of my clients has my cell phone number, and they call me on the weekends, weekdays, weeknights. If I don't get back to them immediately, it's always by the end of the day, either via text or a phone call, even sometimes email.
Well, and the great thing is even when they can't get a hold of us on our cell phones, we always give them the office number. And they know that our whole team's licensed in the office, and they can handle anything.
They have the same license as the agents do, same training as the agents
They probably know more than we do sometimes.
Yeah, we don't like to tell them that, though. Right.
Just you, Greg.
Oh, okay. It might be true.
And Carlos, have you ever heard of anybody having the Lizard's phone number to send him a text?
Of course, yeah. I mean, all the time.
I don't know if he has signal that close to the ground, So something else that I see all the time that those cute little lizards and that chick with the price gun don't tell clients is that low prices don't equal adequate coverage. Typically, they're going to, if you jump online, it's typically going to give you, and I'm a recovering online insurance buyer. My second policy of all time as a consumer was online. And I remember specifically it gave me a good, a better, and a best option. So to me, it was, well, what do I want to pay for insurance, not what coverage is appropriate for me? Because I didn't know the difference between primary medical and excess medical and I didn't know what my net worth was. Nobody sat down and, did that math with me. And so I just picked the lowest price.
Yep. That seems typical. I came from USA. No, don't mean to name drop, but that's another thing that we should discuss is the actual, when you have a claim and the process that I had through other companies was awful. And I'll tell you what, I've even had to use our roadside, and I have Jeep, and Jeep has their own roadside program, and I called Jeep first, then I called our roadside, and Farm Bureau's roadside came within like 5 minutes of me being on the side of the road, and Jeep hadn't been there yet or called me or anything.
Even assigned somebody.
Yeah, it was just, I was like, wow, that's great service, you know.
No,
so.
that's true. So for our listeners, rule of thumb, you get into a car accident, or if you know somebody who works at a body shop or owns a body shop, ask them this very simple question. It will tell you everything you need to know about a company's claims experience. Ask a body shop owner or technician, what companies do you like working with? They'll usually start out with the companies they hate because, of course, we think of the negative more strongly than we think of the positive. But they're going to list 2 or 3 insurance companies that they love working with because they pay quickly, they do the repairs properly. When they come back and say, hey, we found something else that was damaged and we didn't notice it in the initial, they pay that supplemental payment quickly because it's the right thing to do for the client.
Yes, I was just going to say that. They like the people or the companies that are going to do the right thing for the client because that's what they're trying to do ultimately as well. When they have pushback from the Geico and the lady with the gun, they don't prefer to work with them, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than going to file a claim and discovering that you don't have the type of coverage you thought you did.
Or you have a salvage title and you didn't tell Progressive that, and then they say, well, you're out of luck.
Yep.
You don't have any physical
But
coverage.
15 minutes can save you 15% on car insurance.
Yeah, it sounds great, doesn't it?
But what I hear is 15 minutes can leave you vulnerable, homeless, and, I mean, pretty much
Bankrupt.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at this question then. What is the number one thing you gentlemen feel that listeners should take away from this conversation?
Don't settle on low coverages. Let your insurance agent take a look at it and walk with you through that to find out what you really need.
That's good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Plus, I would add you need to have an insurance agent to be your advocate in the process of the insurance world, like claims, making sure coverage is correct, making sure that you're not vulnerable or unprotected. So definitely get an agent, have them look over your policy, make sure that they're advising you correctly, and you know,
that's great.
Be protected.
Yes, like they said, being protected is the main. I mean, it's cool. It's nice that they fix your car and everything, but if you're paying money and when you have a big claim or an accident or your kids that are hurt, I'm sure you're not going to think, wow, I'm really glad I saved all that money with Progressive all this time. No, it's about having the right coverage for your family to cover your assets that you work so hard for.
So you can be insured, right?
Also having the agent that you can reach on the weekends and text, which is very convenient for a lot of people now. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. And, I think my biggest takeaway that I like to leave with our listeners is the online insurance industry and the transactional insurance companies spend more on advertising than all of the tobacco and alcohol companies combined.
Wow.
So they're trying to send a message into your brain, and it's up to you to make your own decisions as an adult and take personal responsibility for your insurance coverages because, frankly, your family's depending on it. Your business is depending on it. If you go broke because you didn't have proper insurance, but you save 15% in 15 minutes,
it's on you.
It's on you. And you're going to be kicking yourself for the rest of your life over $20 a month or whatever the savings was. So there you have it. I want to thank you for listening today to today's conversation. I want to give a big thanks to my guest for joining me today. Where can people connect with you? Are you on Instagram, Eric?
Yeah, I've got an Instagram, Eric Steven Gestring. You can look me up on Facebook.
I think it's at Eric Farm Bureau.
Yep, that's the Instagram. Yes, sir. And then on Facebook, Eric Steven Gestring. Look me up. It's the same page that I use for everything else. I don't use a separate business.
Same here. It's Carlos Vera, Farm Bureau Insurance on Instagram, and Carlos Vera on Facebook. You can find me.
Instagram is at Carlos Farm Bureau, I think.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. The best way to get a hold of me is through Facebook, and it's just Greg Hoxett, Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'd love to hear from listeners as well. What topics would you like us to cover on the show? Message me with your thoughts On today's show and future topic requests over on Instagram or Facebook, it's at the Mardigian Agency, Mardigian Agency. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Be Insured.